Hello, everyone. I am Kritika, the Artist Community Manager at Elisium Art. And today I am thrilled to welcome you all once again for our another episode of Curator Spotlight Series. And today, a very special guest has joined us. And we are truly honored to welcome her and honored to speak with Julia Greenway. And she is one of those curators whose work has shaped important conversation around the digital culture, identity, and contemporary art. And she has also curated some of the most influential exhibitions, and one of these are Lu Yang's Netty Netty and Among the Machines.
I am very much a curator working at the intersection of art and technology. That's been my focus since I began my practice nearly 15 years ago now. And that's always been from a perspective of champion artists that are working in experimental ways with the tools of technology and the advancements of technology. I've always really wanted to support those practices. So my work as a curator has been to mediate those practices to the public, and to try to create immersive and impactful exhibition experiences. And I've done that, through various partnerships, but most recently with the Zabludowicz Collection in the last few years in London.
Without any further ado, let's start with our interview session.
Mm-hmm.
My first question would be to you is, so what first drew you into the world of curating? Well, was there any particular kind of moment or exhibition or any particular artist that ignited your passion for shaping art experiences?
I have a bit of an unconventional practice in that I trained as an artist. I was a painter for many years. But when I relocated to Seattle, Washington in 2011, there was not a lot of galleries showing more contemporary art, and particularly time-based media at that time. And there was a lot of students coming out of the universities that were working in film and working with advanced technologies, but they really didn't have an outlet to exhibit. And so I started doing nomadic projects. I started doing pop-up exhibitions, and I had a mobile gallery at one point, and I just sort of was being responsive. I had struggled being an artist because, as many of us know, it's quite a solo endeavor. It's quite a rigorous endeavor, and I didn't feel fulfilled by that. I didn't like to be alone in a studio. I wanted to be in conversation with others, and I wanted to bring people together. And I very much admired the artists that could do that work, that could just dedicate themselves to the rigor of their practice. And I wanted to find ways to support them, basically. So I really just started doing like pop-up things, really sort of informal exhibitions and events in Seattle. And then that led to me acquiring a space. And so I basically established a project space. It was called Interstitial at the time, and it was focused on commissioning and working with artists that were working with in time-based media. That I had a very tiny little project space, and I was able to bring in artists because I also had no money, right? So I was doing it in a very shoestring budget, and this was also the benefit of working with digital artists, and that I could show. I didn't have to ship in objects. I didn't have to put up paintings. I didn't have to install sculpture. I was able to acquire the kit and bring the work together in a dynamic and affordable way for me at that time. So that's really how I started working. And once I had the space, I was able to really build a curatorial narrative from that space. So I was really pushing kind of the experience of what the exhibitions could be in that environment. And I really tried to make it feel different between each iteration. And I was also able to bring in international artists because I was working digitally. I was able to bring in artists like Lu Yang and Wang Ping and Tabitha Rezaire, my little bitty project gallery in Seattle. And that sort of kind of opened up to me what curatorial authorship could be and how I could mediate these really exciting artist practices to the public, and also inform my direct community, because I was doing a lot of I was having a lot of discussions with artists and people that were coming to the space about what people were doing around the world, and that was just so enriching for me.
Hmm.
That's basically kind of the foundation. I just started doing it. That's the short answer. My work has always come from a place of wanting to support artists and wanting to build exhibitions that were artist led, that were like allowing the artist work to be the best it could be, and then to be the kind of mediary to the public for that. So that was really how Interstitial started, and then that kind of led me to relocating to London to pursue a master's and kind of further iterations.
Yeah, amazing. Yes, that's a wonderful, an answer, and to learn about how you got into your job, and obviously someone who comes from a digital background, and then how you wisely use that platform in order to onboard such big artists. That is a very smart work, I believe. Yes.
Thank you. I mean, it's not, I think, in sort of advising people that are entering the curatorial space and how to navigate their career. I mean, I do think there is a balance of education, but it very much depends on what type of curator you want to be, because there's a lot of ways that this field can kind of manifest
Yes.
for
Yeah.
folks. But I think for me, I've always been very practice led. I really like to be immersed in the work and be hands-on and be really like collaborative with the artist. That always felt quite natural for me. So I think I usually, to advise people that if you are going to enter this field, find out where you shine and where you want your focus to be. And if you want to really collaborate with artists, I think just start doing it. Like I think being in a place where you can do one night events, where you can do things that are affordable, where you're just practicing the act of exhibition making and engaging with the public, it's really informative work. For me, it was, I think like that was how I needed to do it.
So let's dive to our next question. So my next question is, you have worked across exhibition, ranging from the Lu Yang's Netty Netty to Among the Machines, and while exploring such interactions of digital tech, including identity and embodiment. So how you personally balance the conceptual framework with public accessibility when curating such diverse kind of themes in your work.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great question, and I think this is crucial work. I think accessibility into artist practices and exhibitions is really important, and there's a lot of ways to do that, right? I mean, there's exhibition text, there's guides, there's textual information that can be disseminated, but I feel very much it's about the environment of the exhibition. I think creates accessibility and interaction. I think if you can allow the audience to move very intuitively through the work. I think a good example of this is in Lu Yang's exhibition, we had a very realistic arcade installation that displayed the artist's video games work.
Yes.
And this was quite important for the artist, but also for us, in that we were able to allow the audience to engage with the work as players and in really accessible, like rudimentary video game interaction. So like joysticks and buttons and like motorbikes and dance stages. And that it wasn't it's very intuitive, right? Because many of us have engaged with arcades. We understand how these things work. And it allowed the audience to become these players in Lu Yang's work. That was really successful. And also to kind of expand on your question about balancing conceptual framework, Lu Yang makes very simple video, or some of her older works were very simple video games, but they dealt with these big concepts such as enlightenment and the future of consciousness and like what happens after we die, and what are these digital avatars that we're embodying on the day-to-day basis. So really huge questions. But as an artist, they're able to unpack that in a really accessible way. So the artists do this too. I think it's also important to curate and work with artists that are kind of hitting that balance of access and conceptual rigor. So Lu Yang, I think, is a great example of that. This is why I've always been really excited about their work. And with Among the Machines, I think there was a lot of that was a group show. There was a lot of diversity of practices. We really kind of set out to obviously focus on works in the collection that were dealing with these big themes of the advancements of technology and the future of AI and all these things. So we had a diversity of practices that did that. So, I mean, we had we commissioned augmented reality pieces in the gallery. So that creates I think a nice accessibility point for visitors to sort of look at the architecture and artwork within the architecture and work with this new technology to experience an artwork. And then, also in that show was Kaiken's Haptic Bellies, which was a wearable belly that had somatic movements that were, so you felt this embodiment of technology. But I also think too, with that show, there was a playfulness. There is a bit of, I always really respond to a satire or a kind of a tongue-in-cheekness to these sort of bigger questions about the future of technology. Like one of the augmented reality works by Theo Trentafielius, Genius Loci, was this giant boobed worm that was flying around the gallery. And it's really funny. It's really silly, but it's really important. And I think that can bring audiences in that we can play with these technologies. We can play with our interactions with them.
Yes.
We don't have to, because I think there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of fear about what's happening, but we do have certain amounts of control, and we can make fun of these things. We can play with them. We can decide, what type of avatars we want to be. And I think that's always been sort of my interest in the artists that I work with and the work that I want to champion, is that there is a satire, there is a hope, there is a fun. I think that's also a good balance of accessibility.
Absolutely. And as Elisium Art, who also, promotes AR and AI, I think this is something very exciting to learn that, hey, look, AI and AR has been used to learn about how these things are being, has become very useful in the world of art. It's so fun. In this changing world, we should also learn how to use AI and then AR in art, and how we can use that. And this is what Elysium Art is promoting. And it's so excited to talk about and learn about how they are using AR in the world of art. This is something that I think I today learned, that this is so valuable and such a big and smart move in the art community. Your projects often support artists whose work doesn't fit neatly into commercial galleries or traditional galleries. And how do you define this non-traditional art, and what usually excites you most about championing it?
These type of practices that we're discussing are urgent and timely and need to be seen. And so that at the forefront, it was always kind of, for me, it was facilitating opportunities for the public to engage with these practices. But I wasn't, I've never really had a commercial mind, never really had a commercial intention. It was always, because, so just to say that those artists need exhibition opportunities, firstly.
Yes.
And the public needs to engage with their work. That's sort of the priority. But I also think I really love the challenge of disseminating a digital practice into a physical space. And I think that can create environmental circumstances within an exhibition that can be quite transformative, in that you can really place or situate an audience inside of an artist's practice with these environmental considerations. So that's always been, I've always found that to be the most rewarding exhibition experience. I think it's if you're, an example that comes to mind is when I had my fellowship or my curator in residence placement with Oregon Contemporary, I worked with Sandra Perry, who's an amazing digital artist. But she works with these kind of chroma key colors, or she was at the time. And so we painted the gallery chroma key green and chroma key blue, which are these colorways that you use for digital, the background for green screens and to make digital videos. And that that environment, and then like this beautiful gradient between the two, and like that environment of the exhibition really sets the tone for the work. So then you have these, we had a dueling works, one that had the blue in it and one that had the green, and it just created this really impactful environment for those films and for Sandra's work. And so I think that's one example of how the environment really can impact the experience of the work. And also, I wanted to say you in your question, you had touched on the Zabludowicz Collection Invites program, which, if it's okay, I'd like to bring up here. And that's a program that supports emerging artists. So we wanted to facilitate a space in our program where we could create exhibition opportunities for artists that were early in their career, hadn't really realized their first exhibition, or didn't have gallery representation. And so when I started curating that program, I was bringing in a lot of digital artists that were working with like video games and performance and interactions with technology in different ways. And I think that sort of the hope there is that they can trial how their work is realized in an exhibition context, and they can also basically have potential overlap with commercial galleries and sort of figure out how their work can be editioned or commercialized or realized in a commercial context. That was a really important program in that regard, and that we did kind of facilitate a lot of that exchange.
With exhibitions like Among the Machines, its theme has explored human and the human-machine relationship. And, how do you personally feel that the digital media and the emerging technologies in today's world are redefining the curator's role today?
We're in a very interesting moment where we are kind of at the cusp of sort of crossing over into AI becoming ubiquitous in our lives. So I think there's a lot of questions around that, just in our day-to-day lives, but also in terms of what's going to happen to contemporary art and institutions and collections and exhibitions. It's really it's unclear. But I'm a digital native, digital leaning curator. I'm really intrigued and invested and curious, and I'm somewhat excited by it in a lot of ways. I think there's a lot of interesting problems to solve and discussions to have. So for me, I'm just staying engaged and I'm staying curious. And I think, to talk about like AI specifically, I think a lot of artists are adapting AI as a tool.
Yes,
And I think
especially the digital artists, I feel. Yes,
Yeah.
more than the traditional who creates more original artworks.
Yeah. At the end of the day, AI is currently and will continue to be a tool. And we choose how to use it. Artists will choose how to use it.
Yes.
I think when that there's going to be instances where that's going to be terrible and instances where it's going to be really interesting. So that's just for all of us to kind of stay alert to and make decisions about. But I think that, it's also working with machine learning and advanced technologies and AI is not new. There's artists like John Raffman and Jake Elwes and Rachel Ronson that have been working with these technologies for a long time and have been creating really like critical responsive takes to their role. And I think that's where it's that kind of that intersection with the technology is successful. I think it's going to be really interesting. I've had like ideas about creating as a curator though, what does it mean if AI starts curating, and what does it mean if these spaces that we're looking at art are superficial, or we're going to see a lot of like not human engineered visual language come before our eyeballs, and I think it's going to get really interesting. And then who knows how the art world will respond. It could be like a real push for more formal traditional art practices. We could swing the other way.
I personally feel, I don't know, my opinion might differ with someone, but I feel we can instruct AI, we can give them prompt, but I still feel that creativity, AI cannot take the jobs of artists, because creativity needs a completely different mindset, and it would be really I personally feel that AI might not be able to, adopt that.
I don't know why AI has to come for like all our creative jobs. Do my dishes instead. I'm happy to write my texts. I'm happy to write my emails.
In your early career, you curated shows like that, shows with strong female representation, and such as you have also spent your residency at Oregon Contemporary, and you have showcased works of, contemporary female artists. So, how have these conversation around gender and equity evolved in your curatorial practice over time?
I'm just always way more interested in working with women.
Yes.
So that's I'm always very excited to be in collaboration with another female. So that's always been the core of kind of who I am. But I mean, again, I think it also comes down to representation and and access. I mean, I think women, especially in the field of digital technologies, have often
Hmm.
been overlooked or underrepresented. I mean, I think there's some examples like
Agree.
Rebecca Allen, who's been working in the field since the 80s and 90s, and is just in the last kind of decade plus been getting the recognition that she's long deserved. And also artists like Erica Beckman, who've been working in experimental film. Like, you have these really established female practices that really haven't been seen, or haven't been created given the opportunities that their work deserves. And that was when I did Oregon Contemporary. That really felt like that was in 2017. So that really felt at the forefront for me at the time. I was like, there's all these women doing this work, and they're not being supported in the way that their practices deserve. So, and I was really a lot of that season was around Maggie Nelson's writing as well, and I was just really interested in kind of these dynamics of identity and how we exist online, and how the feminine body is represented online and in digital spaces. And I wanted to just really unpack that. And I mean, that still is true in my work now. I think it continues to come up. I think, and also, we, I was really interested at the time in how women were existing online, and how we kind of were shaping identities of the feminine online. And I think that's still continues to be really important. So I'll continue to explore that and continue to work with women because I love them.
We in Elisium Art family, we mostly have women.
Yeah.
Most of our curators are women. One of our co-founders, Sylvia Barrero, is a woman, and
Yeah.
it's always so fun and so exciting and something very soft and very intellectual to always work with women, promote women's work. And we also have section on our website where we are where we have curated works by women,
Yeah.
and we have promoted such works, and
Yeah.
it's always amazing to see works done by women.
Yeah.
In your work with site specific and emerging artists, so what is a moment of artistic collaboration that profoundly changed your own approach, either personally or conceptually?
I mean, I very much value the relationships that I build with artists. And I think that happens in a lot of different ways. But I mean, the relationships that I have I'm the closest with, or that are the most nurturing, are when we're collaborating really closely on a project. And that happens a lot. I mean, I'm very privileged to work with artists in that way. But the one that comes to mind is the project I did with Joey Holder entitled Semel Paris, which was in London in 2019 in a disused pool and leisure center in North London. And so that was a really unique opportunity in that I gained access to this closed leisure center. And there was this like beautiful pool that was emptied and had these like mirrors and skylights, and it was sort of dilapidated and had been in disuse for many years. And I I had known about Joy's work for some time, and I basically reached out to her for us to kind of collaborate on this project together, for her to conceptualize an installation within the pool. And that was very unique in the circumstances of that project, but also it allowed, I mean, Joey and I became very close in that process and went on to do other projects together, such as Spur, and we worked together at the collection. And she's one of my dearest friends. So I think that's very special. I mean, that it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes when you do work with, you don't know how things are going to happen. You know how behaviors are going to unfold when you embark on a big project together. So when you're able to kind of meet holistically and really collaborate, that's really meaningful, and it builds a relationship that you want to continue to work with that person again. And I think as a curator, that's really important work, is to build those really core relationships with artists and to follow their practice as they grow, and to find different ways to work together and to find different ways to support their practice. So for me, I love embarking on a project with an artist and building that relationship. I think it's the core of my work, and it's the core of what I want to do. And it's also has resulted in the strongest and most successful outcomes.
What has been, one of the most unexpected challenges you personally have faced as a curator, and how that has shaped your way to approach exhibitions today?
I think my instinct is to say that there's always, as a curator, you rely on institutions and institutional constructs, not always, but often. And I often find that, there's that dependency can be quite challenging, and that you don't always have the resources, you don't always have the partnerships that you need. Like I have like a folder full of projects and exhibitions I would love to realize, but I don't have the resources at this moment to do that. So I think that the kind of short answer there is resources. And I think that's shifting quite a lot. I mean, organizations are cutting back on their programs, on their budgets, on the amount of funding they're putting towards exhibitions. I think we're in a moment where exhibition making is becoming really challenging to fund, and the cost is going up, and it's really hard to continue and to sustain these practices. I think there is still an audience interest, but a lot of it's just really hard to sustain a nonprofit venture of art and exhibition making.
Yes.
So for me, as somebody who's not really engaging in a commercial capacity, that is a continual challenge, and it will be for the rest of my career, I'm sure. So I think it's, this is a wider kind of cultural systemic discussion on where governments and publics place value on the cultural sector. And if that funding continues to be cut, we're going to continue to lose access to these.
Yes, absolutely. I do agree on that. As much as you can, bring the audience, the interest, and, can grow that interest in audience, obviously more people will come, more people will show interest on art, and more fundings will be seen coming your way. So yes, let's hope for the best. Looking ahead, are there any kind of themes or directions in contemporary practices, such as storytelling, AI, and the queer futurism, ecology, etc.? And is that basically especially eager to explore in a upcoming exhibition?
I'm still very much, a lot of my research in the last 2-ish years has been around artist-made video games. And I'm really quite interested in the intersectionality of artist games with kind of indie games and with the larger sort of gaming field, and the societal impact of gaming and collective play. So I've been doing a lot of research and kind of understanding of what that sort of exhibition framework could look like. And also, I think, I mean, as we've discussed, AI is quite urgent. I'm really interested in what, in how to sort of situate the contemporary art discourse within that. And my instinct really has been a lot of what I've discussed is like looking at pioneering practices and looking
Mhm.
at kind of the art historical context, because I feel like in art historical in terms of digital practices, because I think it really makes sense that we're here, that artists are working in gaming, artists are working in AI. Like, if a lot of practices have sort of grown into being responsive to these tools. So I think there's a real kind of moment to sort of look at what digital media has been since like the late 90s, I would say. I
Mhm.
think it really needs to be kind of encapsulated, because we're now, I feel like that, like from the 90s to, I don't know, let's say 2015 or maybe even 2020, there's like a real like art historical moment there, because I think now it's kind of it's sort of really turning over and it's going to be changed. So those are a lot of my interests, is looking at kind of pioneering practices, looking at gaming, looking at AI. I really also am craving a lot more like performance programming. Like, I'm really
Mhm.
interested in like the physical body and like
Mhm.
interactions with machines and like wrestling.
Mhm.
I'm obsessed with wrestling, so I have like a lot of interests that I feel like maybe need to be realized. But I think the sense of physicality is kind of coming up for me a lot too, where like I'm really excited by the physical body sort of in aggressively engaging with one another and with technology. So we'll see. There's a lot. Like I said, I'm very excited by a lot of things. There's a lot to explore.
I also want to see how you aggressively get engaged with a machine, a human, and a machine. I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. As someone who has been deeply involved in shaping contemporary art conversations, so how do you view your role in the global digital platforms?
I mean, I think it's visibility. To me, I
Hmm.
think what you're doing is creating visibility for international practices that
Yes.
potentially like folks like me wouldn't have access to some of the art. Like, it's an opportunity for me to engage with new artists that I wouldn't have access to otherwise.
Hmm.
And I think kind of what we were discussing about cultural, like placing value in the cultural importance and generating like revenue for exhibitions, we need to keep these conversations going and visible and widely spread. So, I mean, the internet is a beautiful platform for doing that, and that we can engage with each other across the world, obviously,
Yes.
without, and I think that I'm really, and I think kind of what I was saying about the urgency and the kind of challenges of exhibition making, I think there's a lot of potential for discourse to happen online. Maybe not in exhibition experiences, but also in conversations and in, sharing resources and sharing knowledge. I think there's a lot. I mean, again, like the internet and social media, these are tools for us to use and for us to find creative ways just to discuss our interests and discuss the practices we're excited about. So I'm very currently in my practice really trying to come up with creative solutions for that.
Hmm.
I'm working a lot with with the collection social media, because we don't have a public program at this moment.
Hmm.
So all of our output is really is online. So I'm trying to find ways to do that, through, like green screens on TikTok. But I mean, I'd also love to start like a talk show or a regular like series. So what you're doing with this Curator Spotlight and with Elisium is really inspiring to someone like me, but also to for all of us to sort of look at how we can engage differently.
Yes,
So
absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your compliment. I also believe that, it's a kind of a platform that could bring, amazing people together. And we have only one motto, and that is to democratize art.
Mhm.
And that is our main motto, from wherever you are. Uh, we are breaking the boundaries and we are coming together and we are promoting that, which is a
Mhm.
very big deal. And being able to engage with people all around the world through the platform is not only empowering but also inspiring. And it's also, making us to, we can also be able to find artists and get engaged with, curators that learn about their journey, about your work, and how we can learn about that, expand our dynamics. So yeah, it's something that has been teaching us so much more that might have been hidden and might not have been disclosed
Mhm.
yet to the outer world. And I think yes, that is very important. Is there anything you believe that platform like ours should continue doing to better serve artists, curators, and to the audience, of course?
Mhm.
And any advice, any suggestions, recommendation, or even feedback from your side?
Just keep going. Just keep doing it. I think it's so much about consistency and like building. That's that's my advice is like don't give up. Keep
Yeah,
going. Keep bringing
absolutely.
in new. I mean, the more people you bring in, the more collaborations you have, the more artists you bring into your platform, the wider it will grow and
Hmm.
build. And
Yes.
that just allow that to happen, and I think you will be informed as you go. That's sort of my, I think it's really easy to get kind of stuck in the weeds about what you should be doing and how things should go and how to be strategic. And I think it's just like just keep doing it, just and if it doesn't feel like it's working, try something else. And if it does, like, I think it's really important to be dynamic and flexible and responsive. So and just consistency
Yes,
is like
absolutely. Yes.
is the motto.
Yes.
So,
I completely agree, and thank you so much once again. And yes, we definitely believe that as well.
mm,
And also being able to work in an art field,
mhm,
it's an honor, obviously, for someone like me who loves art, who loves to see it, who
mhm,
talk about it, and to learn so many ways. Not just, I mean, it's not just that my focus is only focused on art. My focus is also learning about how AI has been utilized in the art world, and also how we are utilizing tech with the art world, how we are working with traditional artists, with the curators, learning about their journey. And it's such an unique way, such an amazing way to learn about it. It's something that you do not get exhausted even
mhm.
though you're overworking, because honestly saying, I genuinely love my work.
It's
I was a bit
wonderful.
yes, but everywhere I go, I always say, I love my job. That's a
It's
great
amazing.
job, because
It's
every
amazing.
day I'm learning so many things. And it's so amazing, especially one of the most, fun and one of the most exciting. And my favorite part of job is, connecting with you guys. I'm
Yeah.
sitting at one side of the corner of the world, and I'm able to, meet these people, meet these big people, and have a conversation with them,
Hmm.
have the privilege of learning about them, learning
Hmm.
about their job and how they're promoting, their work, and giving so much to the art world. This is one of my favorite part of my job.
Yeah. I mean, to be able to say you love your job is amazing. So you're
Yes,
winning
yes,
already. Yeah.
yes, I know, right? That's a very big thing. So, Julia, thank you so much for your answers.
Thank
I
you,
mean, I cannot wait for the final outcome. I'm really waiting for that. And I
Kritika.
had an amazing, wonderful conversation with you. And we have only, few more rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
And I hope
Okay.
you're ready.